You're walking through a dense nightlife district just after sunset. The air feels different here, charged, theatrical, almost suspended between reality and performance. Neon signs layer over each other in vertical stacks. Music pulses through thin walls. Laughter spills out of doorways. Every few steps, someone calls out a special offer, a happy hour, a promise of something better upstairs. And then, slightly apart from the noise, you see her. She isn't shouting. She isn't dancing. She isn't aggressive. She's standing still, holding a small sign. 1,000 yen, 60 minutes. She smiles gently at passersby. If you look at her, she might take half a step forward. Maybe she says something simple. Cheap drinks. Relaxed atmosphere. Just 1,000 yen. It looks harmless, affordable, casual, and that's exactly why it works. Tonight we're unpacking what that sign really means, why young women stand on the street holding those prices, how the girls' bar system operates,
9 p.m. to 5.
why the number looks deceptively simple, and how, in some cases, this model overlaps with high-pressure or fraudulent establishments that leave customers shocked when the final bill arrives. Because that small sign isn't just an advertisement, it's the front door to an entire ecosystem. To understand it, we need to begin with what a girls' bar actually is. At its most basic level, a girls' bar is a small drinking establishment where customers sit at a counter and talk with female staff. Unlike high-end hostess clubs, which often involve private booths and large minimum spending requirements, girls' bars market themselves as more casual and affordable. You sit at a counter, you order drinks, a staff member sits or stands nearby and talks with you. The product being sold isn't alcohol alone. It's attention, it's conversation, it's the feeling of being welcomed into a curated social environment where the interaction is structured and predictable. In everyday life, attention is uncertain. In a girls' bar, attention is guaranteed, as long as you're paying. Now let's talk about the sign. When you see 1,000 yen for 60 minutes, that price typically refers to a base seating charge. It's the fee you pay to sit at the counter for 1 hour. It does not include drinks. It does not include drinks purchased for the staff. It does not include time extensions. It may not include service fees or tax. So why present it this way? Why lead with a number that doesn't represent the final cost? Because psychologically, 2,000 yen feels insignificant. It feels safe. In a major city, 2,000 yen can disappear quickly on food or transportation. It doesn't trigger financial caution. It feels like a small experiment rather than a commitment. And in an environment overloaded with sensory input, flashing lights, loud music, crowded sidewalks, simplicity stands out. The sign doesn't overwhelm you with details. It gives you one number, one time frame, one clear offer. In marketing psychology, this is called reducing cognitive load. When people are tired, distracted, or overstimulated, they respond better to simple choices. Nightlife districts are built on overstimulation. Every bar is competing for attention. Most fail to stand out, but a person holding a sign? That's different. Human presence cuts through chaos. You can ignore a poster. You can walk past a digital display. But ignoring someone who looks directly at you requires a small act of social resistance. That moment, that tiny hesitation, is powerful. And it's intentional. Nightlife districts operate in hyper-competitive conditions. In some areas, dozens of small bars occupy the same building, each on a different floor. Rent is high. Margins are thin. Customer acquisition is everything. Standing outside is a low-cost, high-conversion marketing strategy. The young women holding those signs are not just placeholders. They are frontline sales representatives. Many are paid hourly wages plus commission. Some receive bonuses for bringing customers inside. Others earn a percentage of drinks purchased for them. Recruitment isn't separate from their job, it's part of it. And here's where nuance becomes important. Not every girls' bar is fraudulent. Many operate legally and transparently. In those establishments, once you enter, pricing is explained clearly. Drink menus are visible. Staff drinks are optional. Time extensions are offered but not imposed. You can leave at the end of your hour without conflict. For regular customers who understand the system, the experience is predictable. But the same recruitment method, the same 1,000 yen sign, is also used by establishments that rely on ambiguity and pressure. And this is where things become complicated. Let's imagine you decide to follow the recruiter upstairs. You enter a narrow building. Maybe you take an elevator to the 4th floor. The door opens. The lighting shifts. The space feels smaller, more intimate. Music is louder. The outside world disappears behind a closing door. You're guided to a seat quickly. A drink menu appears. A staff member sits beside you before you fully processed your surroundings. The atmosphere is friendly, relaxed. You're asked what you'd like to drink. Before you can overthink it, you order something simple. Then comes the next layer.
Hi.
May I have a drink? It's framed casually, politely. Refusing feels awkward. After all, she's talking to you, laughing at your jokes, giving you undivided attention. Buying her a drink feels like basic courtesy. You agree. Time passes quickly in these environments. Conversation fills gaps. Alcohol softens awareness. The 60 minutes printed on the sign isn't announced when it expires. There's no alarm, no visible clock counting down. In a transparent establishment, someone might gently ask if you'd like to extend your time. In a more aggressive one, the extension may begin automatically unless you explicitly state that you want to leave at the precise moment the hour ends. Small differences in procedure create large differences in cost. Now imagine the bill arrives. Instead of 1,000 yen plus a few drinks, the total is far higher than you expected. You see charges for the base seating fee, multiple drinks, companion drinks, a service charge, tax, perhaps an extension fee you didn't realize had started. If everything was technically listed somewhere, the establishment can claim transparency. But if it wasn't clearly explained up front, the customer experiences shock. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't want to argue in that moment. You're in a small room. It's late. You may be slightly intoxicated. You may not fully understand the language. Even without overt intimidation, the power dynamic favors the establishment. This is where the line between aggressive sales and outright fraud becomes blurry. Some establishments, often referred to colloquially as bodakuri bars, take this model further. They may inflate drink prices dramatically. They may pressure customers to pay immediately. They may resist itemizing charges. In extreme cases, customers have reported being escorted to ATMs. It's important not to exaggerate. These cases do not represent every girls' bar, but they exist often enough to shape public perception. So why does the system continue? Because it works. The 1,000 yen sign is a hook. It converts curiosity into entry. And once someone crosses the threshold, the environment changes. Outside, you have mobility. Inside, you are contained. Outside, you have options. Inside, you're in their space. Even in legitimate establishments, this containment increases spending. It's not necessarily malicious. It's simply how hospitality businesses operate. The longer you stay, the more you spend. But when pricing clarity disappears, containment becomes leverage. Now let's step back and examine the labor side more closely. Why do young women take these jobs? Urban centers are expensive. Rent is high. Tuition is high. Flexible evening work can be attractive. Compared to daytime retail, nightlife jobs may offer higher hourly wages. Commission structures allow higher earnings on busy nights. However, commission also creates pressure. If your income increases when customers buy you drinks, you're incentivized to encourage those purchases. If you receive bonuses for bringing customers inside, you're incentivized to recruit actively. This does not automatically make the worker a scammer. It makes her part of a sales-driven system. In many cases, the worker does not control final billing. Management sets pricing structures. Management enforces policies. The person holding the sign may simply be fulfilling her role. Yet, from the outside, she is the face of the experience. That visual, a young woman holding a cheap sign in neon light, becomes symbolic. For some observers, it represents nightlife culture. For others, it represents vulnerability and exploitation. For still others, it represents opportunity and income. The truth is layered. Culturally, paying for conversation and attention is not unusual within certain nightlife traditions. Snack bars and hostess clubs have long operated on structured interaction. The girls' bar format emerged as a more casual, lower-cost version of that model. But tourists and first-time visitors often lack that cultural context. In many countries, A posted price implies total cost. Here, it implies an entry condition. That difference alone creates misunderstanding. Add alcohol, add noise, add social pressure, and the misunderstanding grows. Scam-oriented establishments exploit this gap intentionally. They rely on customers who do not know the norms. They position recruiters in high-traffic tourist areas. They emphasize affordability. They minimize explanation. By the time the bill is presented, the damage is done. And embarrassment keeps many customers silent. Few people want to admit they were persuaded by a cheap sign and a friendly smile. Few want to publicly describe being overcharged in a nightlife setting. That silence protects bad actors. So when you see that young woman holding 1,000 yen 60 minutes, what are you really seeing? You're seeing urban competition in action. You're seeing commission-based labor. You're seeing pricing psychology at work. You're seeing cultural traditions intersecting with tourism. And sometimes you're seeing the first step in a carefully engineered funnel designed to maximize spending. The sign itself is not inherently dangerous, but it is incomplete. It tells you just enough to enter, not enough to fully understand. And that gap between what is shown and what is experienced is where the real story lives. Part 2. In Part 1, we stopped at the threshold, the moment just before you step inside, the moment when the neon glow is still behind you, when the sidewalk is still under your feet, when you still have options. Now, we're going to move past that doorway, because everything changes once you cross it. The most important thing to understand about these environments is that they are engineered. Not in the dramatic, cinematic sense of secret criminal masterminds plotting in dark rooms, but in the practical, business sense of spaces designed to increase spending. Hospitality businesses everywhere are engineered to do this. Restaurants use lighting and music to shape how long you stay. Supermarkets design aisles to encourage impulse purchases. Casinos remove clocks to distort time perception. Girls' bars, both legitimate and fraudulent, operate on similar principles. The difference is that the product isn't just alcohol, it's attention. And attention changes human behavior. When you walk into a girls' bar, especially after being personally recruited, the first thing that happens is speed. You are seated quickly. You're given a menu quickly. A staff member joins you quickly. Speed reduces hesitation. If you're given too much time to stand awkwardly and assess your surroundings, you might reconsider. You might notice how small the space is. You might notice the lack of visible pricing details. You might feel the imbalance. So you're absorbed into the environment before your analytical brain fully catches up. Then comes engagement. The staff member asks where you're from, what you do, whether you visited before. She laughs easily. She listens closely. She may mirror your body language. She may lean in slightly when you speak. These are basic social techniques. They are not inherently manipulative. In fact, they are common in any service industry. But in this setting, they are intensified. Because the longer you feel engaged, the longer you stay. And the longer you stay, the more the meter runs. Now let's talk about time. Because time is one of the most subtle levers in this system. 60 minutes. That number feels contained, controlled, predictable. But once inside, time becomes abstract. There is usually no visible countdown, no reminder at the 50-minute mark, no gentle announcement that your hour is ending. In transparent establishments, a staff member may ask if you would like to extend your time. In less transparent ones, the extension may begin automatically unless you explicitly stop it. Think about that dynamic. You are engaged in conversation. You are mid-story. You are mid-drink. The moment when your 60 minutes expire passes quietly. 10 minutes later, you decide you're ready to leave. But now you've entered the next billing block. You may not even know how long each extension block lasts. Is it 10 minutes? 30 minutes? Another full hour? Without clarity, your bill grows in increments you didn't consciously agree to. This is where psychological friction plays a powerful role. Stopping the interaction requires interrupting it. You have to say, "I'm done." You have to break the flow. You have to reject the person who has been giving you attention. For many people, that's uncomfortable, so they delay, and delay costs money. Now let's add alcohol into the equation. Alcohol reduces inhibition, it impairs time perception, it increases emotional bonding, it lowers resistance to social requests. From a business perspective, alcohol is not just a product, it's a catalyst. When a staff member asks, "Would you like to buy me another drink?" The question is framed casually, but the psychology behind it is layered. You are in a reciprocal exchange. She is giving you attention. You give something back. You may even feel flattered that she's enjoying your company enough to keep drinking with you. In many establishments, companion drinks are significantly marked up compared to customer drinks. The profit margin on those drinks can be substantial. The system is simple. The more drinks she consumes, the more you pay. And because she is trained to maintain energy and engagement, the conversation rarely slows. But here's where things begin to separate clearly between aggressive marketing and outright exploitation. In a legitimate girls' bar, you can decline. You can say no to buying staff drinks. You can ask for the bill at any time. You can question charges. And while the atmosphere may feel awkward for a moment, it does not escalate. In a scam-oriented operation, refusal may be met with subtle pressure, a slight shift in tone, a suggestion that this is how it works, a reminder that you agreed to certain conditions, even if you don't remember clearly agreeing. The power imbalance becomes more visible at billing. Let's imagine that moment. The music is still playing. The lighting is still dim. 2 or 3 staff members are within view. You ask for the bill. It arrives on a small tray. The number is far higher than expected. You begin to scan the charges. There are items you don't fully understand. You ask for clarification. The explanation comes quickly, maybe too quickly. Base fee, extension fee, companion drinks, service charge, late night surcharge, tax. Each line item may technically exist within the rules of the establishment, but the rules were not necessarily emphasized when you entered. Now your options narrow. You can argue. But arguing in a small, unfamiliar space feels risky. You can refuse. But refusal carries social and psychological consequences. Even without explicit threats, the environment itself exerts pressure. This is how many high-pressure bars operate. Not through dramatic intimidation, but through atmosphere control. It's not about locking doors, it's about controlling pace, information, and social dynamics. Now let's step outside the individual experience and examine the economic structure that allows this to exist. Urban nightlife districts are ecosystems of extreme competition. Rent is high, turnover is high, businesses open and close frequently. Survival depends on maximizing revenue per customer. Low entry fees attract volume. High add-on pricing drives profit. Recruitment on the street reduces customer acquisition costs. Commission-based pay structures align worker incentives with revenue growth. In that sense, the model is efficient. The ethical boundary is crossed when transparency disappears. When the gap between expectation and reality becomes intentional. When confusion becomes strategy. Tourists are particularly vulnerable within this model. Why? Because they lack reference points. If you are familiar with local nightlife customs, you may know that a 1,000 yen sign rarely represents total cost. You may know to ask detailed questions. You may recognize red flags. But if you're visiting for the first time, the system appears straightforward. A posted price is assumed to mean a total experience. Language barriers amplify this vulnerability. Explanations delivered quickly in a second language are easy to misunderstand. And scammers know this. They position recruiters strategically near train stations, tourist-heavy streets, and entertainment hubs. They emphasize simplicity. They avoid detail. They rely on the fact that most people don't want to cause a scene in a foreign country. And here's another uncomfortable layer: embarrassment. When someone realizes they have been overcharged, they often feel partially responsible. I should have asked more questions. I shouldn't have gone upstairs. I shouldn't have bought that extra drink. So the cycle continues. Now let's talk about fear. Not cinematic fear, but social fear. Most high-pressure billing situations do not involve physical threats. They involve discomfort. Humans are wired to avoid social conflict. We avoid raising our voices. We avoid confrontation in small rooms. We avoid escalating situations that feel uncertain. Scam bars exploit this instinct. They don't need violence. They need awkwardness. They need you to decide that paying is easier than arguing. The frightening part isn't dramatic. It's subtle. You don't realize you're trapped. You realize you're tired. You don't feel physically threatened. You feel socially cornered. and that's enough. Now, it's important to emphasize again, not all girls' bars operate this way. Many are transparent. Many rely on repeat customers. Many value reputation. The challenge for outsiders is that the visual recruitment method looks identical across both legitimate and illegitimate operations. The same sign, the same smile, the same 1,000 yen hook. So how do you tell the difference? Clarity before entry is everything. Ask direct questions.
飲み放題ですか？
飲み放題です。
いくらですか？
3000円の込みで。
あ、タクシー組で英語話せますか？
英語、ちょっと。
ちょっとだけ。
Is 1,000 yen only the seating charge? How much are drinks? How much are staff drinks? Are extensions automatic? Is there a service fee? Can I see a written menu? If answers are vague, rushed, or evasive, walk away. If you feel pressured before you even step inside, that's information. Legitimate establishments do not fear clear questions. Scam-oriented ones rely on speed and ambiguity. Another protective factor is group presence. Individuals are more vulnerable than groups. When alone, social pressure intensifies. In groups, there is shared awareness and mutual support. This doesn't eliminate risk, but it reduces it. Now, let's zoom out one final time. Why do young women stand on the street holding those signs? Because the system rewards it. Because direct human recruitment converts customers. Because commission structures incentivize it. Because nightlife districts are overcrowded markets. Because attention is currency. And because simplicity sells. But the simplicity is surface level. Behind it lies a layered pricing structure. Behind it lies an engineered environment. Behind it lies a spectrum, from legitimate hospitality to calculated exploitation. The sign itself is neutral. The intention behind it is not always. As you walk through those neon-lit streets, remember that the most powerful part of the offer isn't the price, it's the framing. 1,000 yen, 60 minutes. It sounds contained, but containment is an illusion if you don't understand the rules. What remains is awareness, because the difference between a pleasant night out and an expensive mistake often happens in the first 30 seconds, before you ever leave the sidewalk. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing to never miss a video, and check out the video on screen now for more. Goodbye.